hands around this issue. Important steps that need to be taken today and tomorrow. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I think I can take a couple of questions, and then unfortunately I'm going to have to run.
If you have questions, we have microphones that you could address your questions to so we can capture it over the net.
Or criticism.
All right. Just a second. Mike? Sir? Mike coming.
In the past, there have been a lot of youngsters with interest in information security, learning more how to crack systems than to make them more secure. But in a lot of cases, I find, what's a good word for it, they've been kind of criminalized over the past 10 years. So these resources, instead of being directed into a productive path, they're kind of now on the outer edges of society. Do you see that there'd be some sort of change we could do where we could make use of a market force that helps us make things more secure?
Yeah, I think I perhaps agree in part with what you're saying. I think it's perhaps a bit of an overstatement because there are some programs. In fact, Sandia National Laboratory, I think in coordination with Los Alamos or Livermore, have established a program that brings young people in, high school age, and to work on information assurance. There are programs out there today that the government has put in place, and there's also CyberCorps, which exists today. But that doesn't mean we can't do more. I applaud what IBM ISS are doing in the PhD area, but we do need to reach down lower in the system and tap some of that expertise. You know, kids today are far more cyber savvy than really any of us are, and we need to catch them early, bring them in, and to the degree programs can be established where kids can work part-time, understand the ways of business and how business approaches issues, and develop those good cyber ethics, we should applaud that. And Rodney Peterson's here from EDUCAUSE, and some individuals may want to talk to him offline because EDUCAUSE has been active in this space, and where Rodney can't connect you, he can probably connect you to others who are actually really thinking through these issues. There's also the National Cybersecurity Alliance in CSA, which is active in this space as well. I do think there is a point, though, that we do need to reach down in the system to make sure we have good, solid citizens, cyber citizens, if you will, coming up. But we have real problems that need to be addressed today, and I think the awakening that is underway today is important. Other questions?
Thank you. Can you comment on the Air Force has just recently stood up Cyber Command, and if you could give some of your thoughts on that and whether that should be extended into other areas?
The Air Force has set up Cyber Command down at Shreveport, and I understand they're either going to stay there or maybe move elsewhere. Look, the Air Force has shown leadership in the area, and any time the government shows leadership in this area, I'm going to applaud it. Now the question becomes, is a single service looking at this issue the most appropriate way to go? I think you need to think jointly across services. Think about the Army and the Marines and the Navy and working together on this problem. The enemy sees silos. They'll try to define the silos. They'll go after it. Having the Air Force, if you will, being the entity that is most progressive, most innovative in this, may leave others open to vulnerabilities. On the offensive side, I think we need to think through cyber warfare with regard to all of our forces, and not just necessarily park it in one particular service. But nonetheless, I think what the Air Force has done is an important step forward.
Good morning, Paul. Rodney Peterson with EDUCAUSE. Your comment about the most effective organizations to address cyber security may not be centralized was kind of music to my ears, because that describes the 6,000 plus colleges and universities across the United States that are notorious for being distributed and decentralized. I think a lot of progress has been made over the past 5 years in hiring CISOs and trying to bring some centralized resources and energies to that efforts. But do you have any more thoughts about how this decentralization and securing our cyberspace might actually work in our very academic environments that are represented?
Yeah, perhaps it's a little contrarian, and people may not like it, but I think we need to be more stealthy in our efforts to secure cyberspace. I think we have a lot of well-defined organizations. We have the information sharing and analysis centers that have been set up for each of the sectors. They're important. I recognize they offer a valuable place for industry to come together. I've been a big advocate of them being established and stood up, and they share some data. But I think their effectiveness as far as addressing real-time problems and threats has been weak. And so in this sense, I would encourage communities of common interest to come together and form organizations informally to address the problem. By doing so, they can share information of concern, of common concern. They can work on it together. And if they're flying below the radar, the enemy won't necessarily see them. If I raised a flag on a new organization and say this is the mega center to address cybersecurity concerns in e-commerce, the bad guys are going to find the mega center. They're going to work to understand it, and they're going to work to try to disrupt it and take it down. If we're more stealth-like, if we use some of the same tactics that the bad guys use in order to understand networks, we may find that we have more success. In the starfish and the spider, Rod Beckstrom talks about the success of Al-Qaeda and the cell structure. It's very hard to defeat this. Well, why do we keep on thinking centralized when, in the context of cyberspace, when we could perhaps work in a more decentralized fashion? So if a group of e-commerce industries want to stand together and quietly work on this problem, finance industries work together, oil and gas work to defeat problems that are underway, I think that's important. There should be a relationship with law enforcement, but I think first and foremost, the industries have to form these more quiet organizations to address issues.